Hey guys, tonight we slip gently into a world where the past glows just dimly enough to feel safe, but weird enough that you probably won't survive this, at least not without a raised eyebrow or two. You feel the room settle around you as you ease back, the shadows softening at the edges, and the air cooling in that almost too perfect way. History rustles behind you like an old curtain being tugged just slightly, hinting that something ancient is waiting for you to look its way. You picture dunes shifting, torches flickering, and someone from thousands of years ago staring straight at you thinking, interesting face shape. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're watching from and what the local time is. I love seeing the whole map glow. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The night folds around you like a cool blanket as you drift forward. You don't walk so much as float, toes hovering a breath above the floor, as though the darkness has its own gentle current. You follow that current into a soft lit space where ancient beauty standards swirl like dust motes, quiet, subtle, a little absurd, and somehow comforting. You can almost hear voices from forgotten places whispering their rules about how a perfect human should look. You're not sure whether to laugh, roll your eyes, or nervously check your own reflection in a nearby shimmering surface. You move through the haziness, each step dissolving old time into new. This world feels stitched together from memories, a hint of Nile wind brushing your cheek, the distant clatter of pottery, the smell of old incense mixing with sand. You wander slowly, noticing how your breathing gets softer. Every tiny sound is amplified. Your heartbeat is a warm drum tapping lightly, like it's trying to sync with centuries-old rhythms. The silhouettes of civilizations start appearing in the corners of your vision, shifting like dreams that aren't committed to staying put. You drift closer to one, only for it to blur and slide away like an embarrassed dancer who forgot the next step. Another hovers in your peripheral vision, an outline of a woman with a headdress, her face elongated, her eyes darkened, but when you turn to face her, she fades into powdery gold dust. Maybe she's just shy, or maybe she's judging your contouring choices. Hard to tell across millennia. A smooth, sandy breeze brushes your arm, and when you lower your gaze, faint lines drawn in the ground resemble stylized faces. Some have enormous eyes, some have impossibly narrow chins, some have foreheads that slope dramatically, some have lip shapes that look like someone drew them in a hurry. It's funny, every shape seems exaggerated, as if people from each era wanted to push one feature into a spotlight. You wonder what feature of yours would have been admired. Your eyelashes, your shoulders, your ability to binge watch entire seasons in one night. Hard to know. As you drift deeper, the world shifts into a soft corridor shaped by time itself, the walls bending gently, carrying traces of faces painted, carved, or idealized. You sense something playful in the air, as if history isn't just showing you beauty standards, but winking at you, nudging you, reminding you that humans have always been a little dramatic about appearances. One mainstream historical fact floats toward you like a whispered secret. Many ancient cultures treated beauty not as vanity, but as a sign of cosmic harmony or moral virtue. It's soothing, almost sweet, except for the odd detail that follows it. Some civilizations actually filed their teeth into sharp points because someone thought it looked nice. You can't help the soft snort that escapes you, even as you step further into the dark. You pause. A quiet debate seems to echo around you, soft scholarly murmurs bouncing between shadowy figures, indistinct but somehow authoritative. You catch fragments like, scholars still argue whether, but the rest dissolves into a hush. It feels like overhearing academics gossiping at a midnight mixer. You smile a little. The discussion feels oddly comforting, like a lullaby for nerds. The corridor widens, revealing fluttering colors, deep blues, soft golds, faded reds, as if history is peeling back layers for you. You drift through one, then another. Each layer feels like stepping through thin silk curtains that tingle against your skin before melting away. Your fingers trail through the air, leaving faint traces of shimmering dust behind. The sensation is strangely addictive. You're walking through a place that isn't a place. It's more like a mental museum built by someone who never finished organizing the exhibits. One corner smells faintly like papyrus and honey, another like saltwater and polished stone. You can tell the civilizations ahead of you are waiting. You sense Egypt perched dramatically in the wings like a diva about to make an entrance. Somewhere behind, Greece adjusts its proportions anxiously. Rome is flexing in a reflective surface, checking its skin tone. And all of them feel aware of you, the traveler drifting quietly into their collective memory. A soft hum begins, steady, rhythmic, calming. You realize it's your own breathing merging with the glow of this place. You continue onward, the ground beneath your feet transitioning from stone to sand to something velvety and warm. You don't question it. You're too comfortable, too lulled by the slow tide of ancient whispers. A faint warmth touches your shoulders. You glance upward, expecting a sun, but instead, you see golden lines curving overhead, drawn like constellations representing human silhouettes. Each one flickers with its own symbol: thick eyebrows, elongated skulls, tiny waists, shimmering skin, elaborate hair. Beauty becomes a night sky of shapes. You tilt your head back and take it in, the patterns dancing like they're waving hello. A small wind curls around your ankles, spiraling upward. You follow it toward where the corridor bends, and the feeling of anticipation grows. You can sense Egypt's approach now. Dark coal, scented oils, the rustle of linen robes, but your journey hasn't quite reached it yet. You hover in this gentle in-between space, gathering the last bits of calm before the deeper dive begins. You walk slower now. Your steps match the soft rhythm of your heartbeat, grounding you. The journey ahead holds stories about eye paint, foot shapes, bone structures, skin tones, and more questionable aesthetic choices than you expect. And yet, right now, everything is soft and serene. The past feels like it's breathing beside you, a quiet companion guiding your way. Your eyelids grow slightly heavier, not in sleep, but in a night-slowed dreaminess. The air cools again, settling around your shoulders like a shawl. You realize that for all their eccentric rules, ancient civilizations were just as anxious, hopeful, insecure, and strangely creative as anyone scrolling through beauty trends today. It's oddly comforting. You breathe out slowly, letting that thought wash over you. One final whisper floats across the corridor, drifting like a fragile thread. Beauty has always been a negotiation between the self and the world's gaze. You let the idea unravel softly in your mind, smiling at the truth of it. And with that, the path opens, glowing faintly, ready to carry you straight into the sands of Egypt where your first true stop waits. You drift forward, letting the soft corridor ripple into warm, golden light. As the glow thickens, you feel the air shift, suddenly heavier, scented with resin, honey, crushed minerals, and something faintly metallic. Sand gathers beneath your feet, warm enough to make you curl your toes, and the hush of distant water reaches your ears. You recognize it instantly. You've stepped into ancient Egypt, the land where beauty wasn't just appearance, it was order, magic, and protection. And, of course, very dramatic eyeliner. You wander deeper, and the desert night folds around you like a velvet cloak. A breeze sweeps past, carrying grains of sand that whisper against your skin. Ahead, torchlight flickers on walls painted with figures who seem to track you with elongated eyes. Their gazes don't judge. You get the sense they're admiring your walk, your curiosity, maybe your modern moisturizers. Hard to tell. You pause by a pool of moonlit water reflecting your silhouette. But the water doesn't show your face as you know it. It reshapes you, giving your eyes the unmistakable kohl-lined wings of ancient Egyptians. They stretch dramatically across your temples, as if your face suddenly got signed to a 3000 BCE modeling contract. The shape is bold, confident, powerful, almost supernatural. You blink, and the reflection blinks back, its edges shimmering. You step away, following a faint trail of crushed malachite dust across the sand. Your fingers brush the air above it, and tiny green sparkles cling to your fingertips, glowing softly before fading. You realize you're walking through a place where beauty rituals were not mere vanity, they were spiritual armor, shielding people from illness, curses, and, apparently, bad eyebrow days. A mainstream historical fact floats into your awareness. Egyptians used eye makeup not just for aesthetics, but because they believed kohl protected them from infections and warded off the evil eye. Somehow, eyeliner just got way more impressive. But as you continue, you catch a quirkier glimmer. Some Egyptians shaved their eyebrows entirely when their cats died, because grief demanded style updates. And as you let that sink in, you can't help wondering how your own eyebrows would fare if your pet goldfish decided to swim its last lap. Would you honor them with avant-garde facial choices? Who knows? Egyptians set the bar high. You wander between tall papyrus stalks that sway gently even though there's barely any breeze. They stroke the air like ghostly hands, guiding you toward a cluster of clay jars arranged neatly in the sand. You kneel beside them, curiosity warm in your chest. Each jar bears symbols in flowing, elegant script: a falcon, a lotus, a pair of stylized eyes. You lift a lid from one, and a puff of fine black powder swirls upward, dancing around your face before settling on the ground like soot from a celestial fire. You feel someone behind you. Not threatening, just present. You turn slowly, and a figure appears. A woman in linen, her hair braided with gold threads, her eyes lined so boldly it's like the night sky holds up her face. She doesn't speak. She merely tilts her head, watching you with calm interest, as if assessing whether you're coal-worthy. You stare back, trying to appear as wise and put together as possible for someone who just walked in from the future with questionable posture. After a moment, she extends a hand, not toward you, but toward the jars. You follow her gesture, and she seems to say without words, "You can try." You reach for a slender brush, its end tapered like a reed, and dip it into the powder. The texture feels fine, silky, ancient. You bring it toward your face, and though your hands don't touch your skin, the kohl applies itself, gliding across your eyelids in a confident stroke. Suddenly, your eyes feel cooler, sharper, almost heavy with knowledge. The woman smiles faintly, the kind of smile that says you're doing fine, but also that she could redo it better. You appreciate the honesty. She steps aside, and you drift onward, past painted walls showing slender figures, each with the same striking eye design. You notice that beauty here isn't random, it's orderly, symmetrical, controlled. Every detail is intentional. The shape of the wig, the angle of the shoulders, the bare feet, the jewelry sparkling at the throat. You stop before a mural showing a noblewoman being adorned with oils by attendants. You reach out to touch the paint, and warmth blooms beneath your fingertips, the scene softening, almost pulsing with life. A jar of perfumed oil appears beside you on the sand, its surface cool despite the desert heat. You lift it, inhale, and almost melt. It smells of lotus, sweet and earthy at once. Egyptians took scent seriously. Everything mattered, every choice held meaning. Another whisper drifts into your awareness, this one a scholarly murmur echoing from some unseen room of debate. Scholars still argue whether the Egyptians emphasized slenderness as an ideal, or whether the artistic style simply favored elongated forms for symbolic clarity. You feel the debate swirl around you like dust in lamplight, uncertain, ongoing, soothing in its ambiguity. You continue deeper, stepping into an open courtyard. Moonlight spills across the sand like pale milk, illuminating rows of mirrors made from polished bronze. You approach one, and immediately your reflection wavers. Your cheeks become slightly fuller, your lips soften into the rounded shape favored in certain royal portraits, your skin glows with a warm golden hue that feels almost divine. You watch your reflection shift between idealized forms, as if the mirror is flipping through beauty standards like a catalog. Then, without warning, your reflection decides to experiment. It stretches your head slightly, lengthening it in the subtle style associated with elite infants shaped by cradleboards. It's not dramatic, but enough to make you blink twice. The odd detail makes you smother a laugh. You can imagine elite parents bragging at ancient gatherings, "Yes, our baby has such refined cranial aesthetics." You leave the mirrors, wandering toward the sound of water lapping gently. The Nile appears before you, silver in the moonlight, vast and serene. You step into its cool edge, letting the water swirl lightly around your ankles. The river feels ancient in a way that touches your bones, as if it wants to tell you every story it carries, but only in a whisper too soft to decipher. Near the shoreline, small stone pallets rest upon the ground, cosmetic palettes shaped like animals and flowers. You pick one up, tracing the carved features of a frog, its back smoothed by centuries of hands mixing pigments. You can almost hear echoes of laughter from people preparing for rituals, festivals, ordinary mornings. Beauty wasn't just for queens. It was for everyone, from workers to priests to children. A sense of inclusivity warms your chest. You wander along the riverbank, watching fireflies drift lazily. The world slows around you, as if Egypt itself wants you to linger. The sky above is deep blue, sprinkled with stars that shimmer like scattered beads across a velvet cloth. You feel incredibly small, yet deeply connected to everything: the river, the sand, the people who once lived here, their unending desire to define beauty in their own terms. Your path leads you to a low stone platform. You sit, letting your fingers sift slowly through warm sand. Something smooth touches your palm, and you lift it to find a small amulet carved with the eye of Horus. Its curves are flawless, its meaning layered: protection, health, order. Beauty is safety, beauty is harmony. You feel its weight settle into your hand like a comforting presence. As you hold it, a warm breeze brushes your face, carrying faint laughter. You look up to see ghostly silhouettes of dancers moving through the courtyard, their limbs flowing like water, their jewelry chiming gently with each step. They glow faintly, as though lit from within. Their movements show another layer of beauty: grace, poise, confidence. You watch, entranced, as they twirl and sway, their shadows merging with yours. You breathe deeply, absorbing everything: the desert warmth, the calm river, the soft glow of torches. Egypt's beauty standards no longer feel strange. They feel tender, protective, grounded in ritual and belief. Even their strangest choices seem to come from a place of care and harmony. You sense that you're being invited not just to observe, but to feel what they felt. You rise slowly, the amulet still in your palm, and the silhouettes fade like smoke. The path ahead begins to glow a soft gold, pulling you gently forward. You take one last look at the river, the coal jars, the mirrored bronze, the dancing shadows. Then, with a calm exhale, you step toward the next civilization waiting for you, one that's sharpening its marble chisels even now, preparing to show you what symmetry truly means. You step into the glowing path, letting the golden Egyptian sands dissolve under your feet like warm sugar. The air cools instantly, so crisp it tightens your skin just a little, and the scent shifts from lotus and resin to something cleaner, sharper, almost philosophical. The ground beneath you hardens into smooth marble, and you realize you've wandered into ancient Greece, the place where beauty wasn't just admired, it was measured, diagrammed, debated, and sometimes sculpted into existence because reality never quite cooperated. You walk forward, the echo of your footsteps resonating softly across an open courtyard framed by white columns. Moonlight pools across everything, giving the whole scene that signature, classical glow, that makes you feel like you're trespassing inside a museum after hours. You can almost hear the marble appreciating your presence. Greece is dramatic like that. A breeze rustles through olive trees, brushing your cheek with a scent that feels both earthy and thoughtful, as if the wind itself is trying to explain geometry to you. You look down at your hands and notice faint chalky lines forming on your skin. Straight lines, curves, subtle arcs, as though the air here is drafting you into a sculpture. You wander toward a long colonnade where statues tower in elegant poses. Their bodies are impossibly proportioned: shoulders broad, waists narrow, muscles smooth and rounded as if created by someone who had never actually seen a human body but had very strong feelings about numbers. You stop in front of one statue, its gaze lifted heroically toward nothing in particular. You mimic the pose for a moment, and the statue seems to raise an eyebrow at you, silently judging your technique. Greek art standards are unforgiving. You keep walking, your fingertips trailing along cool stone. A whisper curls around you. The Greeks believed beauty revealed inner goodness. Symmetry wasn't superficial, it reflected virtue, harmony, even intelligence. You nod, even though they can't see you, it feels polite. A soft light catches your eye, and you turn to find a polished bronze disc propped against a bench. When you lean over it, your reflection stares back, but not quite your reflection. Your features subtly adjust, shifting into the ideal proportions the Greeks loved. Your chin becomes a touch more defined, your nose straighter, your cheekbones lifted like they're preparing for a public speech. It's not dramatic, but enough to make you tilt your head, wondering whether you've just been upgraded or lectured. You laugh quietly, but the reflection doesn't laugh back. It just looks noble in all proportion. Why? As you rise, a group of ghostly silhouettes glide through the courtyard, philosophers, judging by their robes and intense foreheads. They gather beside a long table covered with wax tablets and charcoal sticks. Their voices carry softly through the night without forming actual words, like muffled murmurs from a seminar that's gone on too long. And within that murmur, you catch a phrase drifting toward you. Scholars still argue whether Greek sculptors exaggerated proportions intentionally or followed mathematical systems believed to reflect divine ideals. The voices fade again, but the debate lingers like a warm afterthought. You stroll closer to a fountain in the center of the courtyard, its water spilling gently over carved stone lions. The surface ripples, reflecting torchlight in shimmering waves. The sound is soothing, like water thinking slowly. You sit on the edge, dipping your fingers into the cool pool. When you lift them, tiny sparkles cling to your skin before melting away, like stardust that didn't quite commit. Behind you, a soft thud echoes. You turn to see a man-shaped silhouette pushing a block of marble with dramatic effort. He wipes his brow for show, of course grabs a chisel, and starts sculpting with determined flourishes. Each chip of stone falls to the ground with a clarity that makes you feel slightly self-conscious, like you should be taking notes on how to achieve peak aesthetic form. You wander toward another statue, this one a female figure with serene features, a body carved into smooth curves and idealized proportions. She holds her weight in a contrapposto stance, relaxed yet purposeful, like she knows something you don't and refuses to tell you. You try shifting your weight like hers. It's surprisingly comfortable. You feel smarter instantly. A mainstream fact floats gently into your awareness like a well-read feather. The Greeks often used the golden ratio to structure their statues and believed it reflected universal harmony. You smile. It feels very on brand for them. But then, lurking behind that elegant truth, a quirky detail pops up. Ancient Greeks sometimes bleached their hair using crushed herbs and sunlight, even though the results were uneven at best. You imagine someone lying on a rooftop, hoping for golden curls but ending up with streaks of questionable straw. You can't help snickering softly. As you continue on, you come upon a row of masks, tragic, comic, heroic, each showing exaggerated facial features. You pick one up, holding it close. Its mouth is open in eternal shock, its eyebrows arched dramatically. You turn it over, half expecting instructions for use. Instead, you find more chalk marks inside, proportional guides, as if someone was teaching a workshop on emotionally optimized storytelling. A low hum draws your attention. You follow it down a narrow, shaded pathway draped in vines. At the end stands a small amphitheater, its seats carved into the hillside. The night sky hangs open above it like a painted dome. You wander onto the stage, letting the ancient acoustics wrap around you. Even your softest breath echoes. You whisper, "Hello," and your voice spirals back in layers of honeyed sound. You feel like you've just given a TED Talk for ghosts. Stepping away from the stage, you notice a cluster of pottery lined neatly on a shelf. Their curved surfaces depict athletes, dancers, warriors, always long-limbed, always idealized. You lean close to one, tracing the painted outline of a runner whose leg muscles are so defined they look fictional. You wonder if Greek artists ever saw a real runner who actually looked like that. Probably not. Further along the path, you find a doorway leading into a small workshop. Inside, tools lie scattered across a wooden table. Chisels, hammers, measuring cords, brushes dipped in fading pigments. In the corner, a sculpture stands half-finished, a torso with perfect curvature but no head yet. You approach, placing your palm lightly on the smooth marble. The stone hums faintly beneath your touch, as if pleased to be acknowledged. You step back, watching as faint figures move around the workshop, the ghosts of artisans, their gestures practiced and confident. They glide from one tool to another, shaping, smoothing, correcting. Their movements show obsessive focus. Beauty is not a preference here, it's a discipline. A duty. A pursuit bordering on sacred. You wander toward the exit, where a doorway leads into an olive grove. The trees cast long shadows in the moonlight, their leaves glinting silver. You walk slowly between them, letting your hands brush the branches. The ground is soft, covered in fallen leaves that crunch just faintly under your feet. The grove feels quieter, more intimate, like Greece is finally dropping its grand facade and letting you peek at the softer thoughts behind its symmetry obsession. You stop under a particularly broad tree, and overhead, two owls blink down at you, unimpressed. They tilt their heads, as if assessing your facial ratios. You give them your most symmetrical smile. The air warms slightly, and you feel that the path is preparing to shift again. You take one last look at the marble, the statues, the ghostly sculptors, the chalk dust still faintly on your hands. You feel a small tug in your chest, a new appreciation, maybe, or just the vibe of standing in a place where people believed perfection was achievable if you just measured enough things. You breathe deeply, letting the classical calm settle into you. The marble floor softens into something warmer, grainier, loosening under your feet. The olive scent fades, replaced by something earthier, spicier, heavier. You sense the next civilization stirring awake, one that loves excess, glow, and pale skin more than Greece ever did. Rome is waiting. You take a step, letting the grove dissolve behind you as the night leads you forward, gently, steadily, into another world. You take that final step out of the olive grove, and the ground beneath you shifts again. No longer cool marble or soft leaves, but warm paving stones glowing under torchlight. The air thickens, scented with olive oil, smoke, wine, and a faint sweetness that you can't quite name. The soundscape swells around you. Chatter, footsteps, the distant clatter of metal, and the soft swish of silk. You blink, and the world opens wide. Welcome to ancient Rome, where beauty is loud, glowing, a little extra, and absolutely convinced it's the pinnacle of civilization. You feel the atmosphere flex around you like it's trying to make an entrance. Rome doesn't whisper its beauty standards, it parades them. You wander forward, the night sky above you tinged with the warm orange glow of countless lamps. Buildings rise in grand symmetry, columns tall, streets wide, and everything almost too polished for a place this old. You hear fountains trickling over carved stone, splashing gently in pools that catch the moonlight. You glance at your arm, noticing how the warm light makes your skin glow a little brighter. Rome approves of glowing. A woman passes by you, her hair perfectly curled into ringlets so precise you suspect divine intervention. She glances at you with effortless confidence, her pale complexion illuminated like fresh parchment. As she moves, her jewelry clinks softly, gold, of course. Because subtlety is not a Roman virtue. You drift farther into the city, and the roads widen into a bustling square lined with stalls. You can feel the heat from braziers warming your face, and when you inhale, you catch scents of beeswax, herbs, and crushed flowers. Beauty products are everywhere. Romans love their creams, powders, and scented oils as much as any modern influencer. A mainstream historical fact rises gently into your awareness. Romans valued pale skin as a sign of elite status because it suggested you lived a life protected from labor in harsh sunlight. You glance around, noting how many faces seem powdered into a near-luminous white. It's dramatic, almost ghostly, but Rome doesn't shy away from extra. Rome invented extra. Nearby, you see a table piled with small clay pots. You drift closer. One pot catches your eye, a creamy, pearl-toned substance. You dip a finger into it out of sheer curiosity. It's cool, smooth, and leaves a faint sheen on your skin. Before you can admire the shimmer, a quirky detail pops into your mind like a mischievous whisper. That glow often came from lead-based cosmetics that were significantly less than healthy. You instinctively pull your finger back, wiping whatever you just touched onto your tunic, hoping the fictional nature of this journey protects you from ancient skincare disasters. As you wander on, the noise of the square fades behind you, replaced by a calmer, quieter street. Lanterns flicker overhead, their flames bobbing like gentle fireflies tethered to metal frames. The path leads you to what looks like a private courtyard. When you step inside, the environment shifts, cooler, more intimate. A fountain burbles softly at the center, and lush plants cascade over the edges of terracotta pots. You're not alone. Ghostly figures move around you, their outlines soft and blurred by moonlight. A noble woman sits at a stone table while an attendant grinds pigment on a tiny slab, mixing it with oil to create a lip tint. Another attendant brushes powder onto the woman's neck, tapping delicately, creating that much coveted pale finish. The noble woman lifts her chin regally, clearly used to the attention. You sense she enjoys being a canvas for beauty. The attendant glances at you as if inviting you to observe. You lean closer. The ritual is deliberate, soothing, almost ASMR-like. Brush strokes blend softly. Oils glisten. The soft tapping makes your eyelids grow a little heavy. The atmosphere feels hushed, contemplative. Beauty in Rome isn't just presentation, it's a performance. The noble woman rises, nodding gracefully at her attendants, and as she moves away, the shadows swallow her shape like a curtain closing on a scene. You continue deeper into the courtyard, and your fingers brush the leaves of a potted plant. They leave a faint minty fragrance on your skin. You remember that Romans often used herbs for everything: scents, balms, tooth cleaning, and probably a few uses no one wants to think about. A scholarly whisper ripples through the air, soft and thoughtful. Scholars still argue whether Roman beauty ideals leaned more toward Greek influence or grew separately from uniquely Roman values of health and vitality. The debate flutters around your mind like moth wings before fading into the night. You leave the courtyard behind and step into a small room, its walls lined with polished bronze mirrors. They stand on pedestals like worshipped artifacts. You approach one slowly. In its reflection, your face changes again. Your skin adopts that faint powdered pallor. Your lips take on a subtle reddish tint. Your hair lifts into gentle curls even though you don't feel it physically happening. You blink, and your reflection blinks back, looking like it's prepared to attend a Roman banquet, where people absolutely do not recline casually while being fed grapes, even though you know they did. You press your palm against the mirror's surface. The metal is warm, almost alive. The reflection flickers, then shifts again, this time showing exaggerated features created by the more extreme beauty trends. Eyebrows plucked into thin arcs, cheeks dusted with rouge, lips brightened with berry stains. You smile faintly at your reflection, and the mirror smiles back, though a little too confidently. You turn away and find yourself wandering down another street, this one lined with bathhouses glowing softly from within. You follow the sound of water echoing from the main entrance. The warm steam hits your face as soon as you step inside, making your hair cling to your skin just slightly. Roman bathhouses are nothing if not social. Even their beauty rituals happen in groups. You walk past ghostly figures chatting, laughing, lounging in heated pools. Some apply oils to their skin, others exfoliate with pumice stones. One man seems particularly invested in shaping his beard with near perfection, squinting at his reflection in a polished bronze surface. You admire the dedication. His mustache is symmetrical enough to win awards. You step deeper into the bathhouse where trays of powders, oils, and brushes line the walls. You brush your fingers over one bottle. It smells faintly of myrrh and citrus. Another bottle carries the unmistakable sharpness of vinegar. Some Romans used it to lighten their skin even more. You raise a brow at that. Rome is committed to its glow. You drift out of the bathhouse, letting the warmth fade behind you. The night breeze hits your skin again, refreshing, cool, and almost silky. You walk along the riverbank now, the Tiber murmuring beside you. Torches reflect off the water in long golden lines. You stop beside a stone bench overlooking the river. A small pouch rests there. Curious, you open it, finding tiny pieces of crushed glass. Your mind jolts with another odd detail. Some Romans used powdered glass as a body exfoliant, because apparently suffering in the name of beauty is timeless. You shake your head slowly, placing the pouch back where you found it. As you continue your walk, you notice the city lights dimming and the sounds fading. Rome feels like it's giving you a small bow before letting you go. The glow softens, the warmth evaporates, and the streets melt into shadow. You take a slow breath. You feel the Roman glow still lingering on your skin, a faint dusting of elegance, or at least a good story, following you through the night. The stones beneath your feet soften into something grainier, cooler. The glow of Rome dims completely as you approach the threshold of another world, one quieter, more delicate, and carrying an emotional weight that settles deep in the chest. You realize you're about to step into a civilization whose beauty standards were as haunting as they were poetic. China is waiting. The world shifts. The next breath brings cooler air. You step forward. The warm Roman glow fades behind you like the last flicker of a candle, and the air cools dramatically, almost like someone opened a window into a softer, more fragile world. A hush curls around your shoulders, delicate as silk. The ground beneath your feet shifts, turning from stone to smooth, compacted earth that carries the faint scent of rain, even though the sky overhead is clear and pale as porcelain. You're entering ancient China, and the atmosphere adjusts itself instantly, quieter, measured, elegant, almost melodic. Every sound feels intentional. Every breath seems to come with a hint of muted poetry. You walk forward slowly, your steps softened by the mist that begins to drift low across the ground, swirling around your ankles. Like shy spirits greeting you in passing. The moon above hangs pearly and full, casting a gentle glow across everything it touches. You follow a narrow path lined with bamboo shoots that sway even though the air is still. Their leaves rustle faintly, creating a whispery rhythm that feels like it's guiding you deeper into a story woven with both beauty and ache. You pass beneath a wooden archway decorated with painted blossoms. The flowers seem freshly inked, their edges crisp despite the centuries between you and whoever held the brush. A faint breeze brushes past, stirring your hair and carrying the scent of jasmine and polished wood. The smell is calming, but tinged with something thoughtful, something almost mournful. A soft glow pulls your eyes downward, and you notice delicate footprints pressed into the mist-covered earth. They're small, incredibly small. You hesitate for a moment, heart catching with the weight of what you know is coming. You follow the trail anyway, your steps slow and respectful. The path widens into a serene courtyard framed by carved wooden screens. Their intricate patterns cast lace-like shadows across the ground. Lanterns hang from the eaves, their warm light flickering gently with each subtle shift in the air. Their glow falls on a lone figure seated at a low table, her outline ghostly but vivid. When she turns her head toward you, you see her face illuminated softly, porcelain skin, dark almond-shaped eyes, lips painted in a subtle blooming red. Her movements are precise, measured, and impossibly graceful. As she rises to her feet, you notice the small, careful steps she takes, her weight shifting in delicate, restrained arcs. Your breath hovers. She walks like someone wearing history. And then you see them. Her feet, bound so tightly they appear half their natural length. Each step she takes seems fragile yet practiced, as if every motion learned to exist inside a narrow frame of pain and grace. A strange tenderness washes over you. You're not horrified. You're humbled. Foot binding wasn't just a beauty standard, it was a story stitched through centuries of culture, family, class, and belief. A mainstream historical fact drifts calmly into the air beside you. Foot binding began during the Song dynasty and persisted for nearly 1,000 years, associated with status, femininity, and the ideal of delicate, lotus-like steps. You feel the truth of that settle like a feather on your shoulder. But then a quirkier detail follows close behind. Soft but startling, tiny embroidered shoes, some barely 4 inches long, were often decorated with elaborate designs, because beauty demanded embellishment even when it hurt. You imagine artisans stitching butterflies and flowers onto impossibly small shoes, each thread woven with pride, artistry, or longing. The woman offers you the faintest nod, not of approval or invitation, but acknowledgement. She turns away and walks toward a small pavilion bathed in lantern light. You follow at a respectful pace, watching the way her silhouette drapes elegantly across the wooden platform. She sits again, hands resting lightly on her lap, movements slow enough to make time itself sigh. You continue into the pavilion, where low shelves hold artifacts of beauty, lacquered hairpins, jade combs, silk pouches smelling faintly of herbs. One comb catches your attention. You lift it gently. It's surprisingly heavy, carved from green jade that glints softly in the lantern light. You run your thumb along its smooth edge, feeling coolness seep into your skin. You imagine someone using it to polish every strand of hair into perfection. As you set the comb down, a scholarly whisper drifts past your ear, almost apologetic in tone. Scholars still argue whether foot binding emerged purely from aesthetics or from a blend of class signaling, patriarchal control, and deep-rooted cultural symbolism. The whisper lingers, hanging in the air like an unanswered question. You exhale slowly, letting it pass through you. A soft chime echoes nearby, wind bells hanging from the pavilion's edge. You follow their sound into a garden blooming with night flowers. The petals glow faintly, shimmering white and pale lilac. Dew gathers on them like tiny pearls. The air is cooler here, touched by hints of river breeze. You walk along a stone path where lanterns bob gently, their reflections shimmering on a pond as smooth as polished jade. Koi glide beneath the water's surface, their bright colors muted by moonlight. Their movement feels hypnotic, slow, lyrical, peaceful. Near the pond's edge, you see another figure, this time a young girl sitting on a stone bench while an older woman knots her hair into a traditional style. The girl winces now and then, but she holds herself steady, determined. The woman's hands move like a practiced dance, twisting and looping the hair into a complex shape secured with hairpins tipped in tiny gemstones. Beauty here requires patience, discipline, and often a quiet kind of endurance. You kneel beside the pond and trail your fingers along the surface. The water chills your skin instantly, sending a small shiver up your arm. Ripples distort your reflection, then settle, reshaping you into a soft, idealized version of the era. Smooth pale skin, hair pinned elegantly, eyes lined with delicate precision. You tilt your head at your reflection. It tilts back, serene and secretly dramatic. You rise and continue your walk through the garden. A bridge arches over a stream trickling softly beneath. You cross it, listening to the water's murmur. The sound is calming, and your steps slow as your breathing deepens. Every movement feels softer, quieter, like you're learning to move the way the environment expects you to. On the other side of the bridge lies a small courtyard with a table set for painting. Rolls of rice paper sit neatly beside brushes with pointed tips. Bowls of ink shimmer like liquid obsidian. You pick up a brush, it feels almost weightless. You dip it into a bowl of ink, feeling the silkiness cling to the bristles. With a slow exhale, you make a stroke on the paper. The ink flows effortlessly, creating a dark, graceful line. One line turns into another, then another, like your hand suddenly remembers a skill you never learned. The paper fills with a shape, an abstract representation of a lotus blossom. You smile softly. Beauty in ancient China wasn't just physical. It was intellectual, artistic, spiritual. A quest for harmony. A pursuit of balance. You set the brush down gently. The lantern glow deepens around you, warming the wood, softening the shadows. The mist begins to gather again at your feet, curling in delicate spirals. The woman from earlier appears once more at the edge of your vision. She stands tall despite the limits her feet imposed on her. Her eyes hold a quiet strength, a reminder that beauty, in any era, can be painful, symbolic, profound, or complicated all at once. You take a final look at the carvings, the lanterns, the embroidered shoes resting on a nearby shelf. Every detail carries centuries of meaning. The mist thickens as you step forward, and the scenery begins to blur. The wooden pavilion dissolves. The pond fades. The lanterns dim into tiny points of light before vanishing completely. A cool wind brushes your face, fresh, salty, tinged with something wild and unfamiliar. Japan is waiting. You step into the drifting dark. The mist around you cools, thinning into a hushed stillness. A faint scent of pine, rice powder, and distant ocean drifts through the air. The ground beneath your feet firms into wooden planks polished smooth by time, each one warmed by lantern light glowing soft and gold. You blink, and before you fully realize it, you're standing at the entrance to a world shaped by elegance, restraint, and contrasts sharp enough to carve themselves into memory. Welcome to ancient Japan, where beauty is moonlit, powdered, precise, and always layered with quiet intention. You step forward, and the night folds around you like a silk kimono. The air is cooler here, cool enough to brush against your skin with a porcelain touch. Bamboo groves whisper at the edges of your vision, their shadows long and slender beneath the lanterns. You hear nothing at first, then the softest clicking of wooden geta moving slowly across the walkway. You follow the sound. A figure appears ahead, illuminated by amber light. She moves with deliberate grace, each gesture a slow brushstroke across the night. Her face gleams pale, so pale it seems carved from moonlight. The contrast shocks you gently. A stark white canvas interrupted only by deep black brows painted in soft arcs and lips tinted a small, precise red shape. Her hair is lacquered into a smooth, elaborate style adorned with ornaments that sway like captured stars. You breathe in slowly. Japan's beauty feels quieter than Egypt's boldness, less mathematical than Greece's symmetry, softer than Rome's glowing ambition, but no less intense. Here, beauty is discipline wrapped in delicacy. As she glides past you, you notice how even the air seems to adjust around her, moving more slowly, respectfully. You follow her silhouette as it drifts into a garden framed by sliding shoji screens and sculpted pines. The garden is dim, but not dark. Paper lanterns cast warm halos across the gravel paths. Their glow feels intimate, like a secret whispered gently into your hands. You can hear the trickle of a small stream, its water slipping over smooth stones with almost meditative calm. A mainstream historical fact floats softly through the garden air. In ancient Japan, white face powder, often made from rice flour or later from crushed lead, was considered a symbol of refinement, purity, and social status. You glance again at the pale glow on the woman's face and feel the weight of that aesthetic. It's beautiful, but you can sense the discipline behind it, the ritual, the patience. Then an odd detail drifts in, delicate yet startling. Some women would shave or pluck out their natural eyebrows entirely and paint new, stylized ones higher on the forehead, creating a serene, doll-like expression. You instinctively touch your own eyebrows, feeling suddenly protective of them. You continue walking past the lanterns until a small pavilion rises into view, wooden, open, and surrounded by stillness so complete it feels sacred. You step onto its platform, the wood creaking softly beneath your weight. Inside, a low table holds brushes, pigments, and small dishes of white powder. Everything is arranged with such precision that you hesitate to disturb it. But something in the air invites you. You kneel, lifting a tiny brush no wider than a whisper. Its handle is lacquered black, its bristles soft as breath. You dip it into one of the dishes, gathering a cloud of white powder that seems to glow on its own. When you raise the brush to your cheek, you don't feel the bristles touch your skin, but you see the effect instantly. A pale veneer spreads across your reflection in the surface of a polished water bowl. Your reflection looks softer, quieter, more deliberate. You tilt your head, the reflection tilts with a kind of serene respect. Behind you, the faint rustle of silk signals another presence. You turn slowly to see a woman seated near one of the pavilion pillars. Her kimono drapes around her like flowing ink. Its patterns intricate and serene. Her lips are painted in a shape so tiny it looks like a petal resting against her face. Her eyes are lined subtly, emphasizing a calm expression that feels almost sculpted. She studies you with the gentlest curiosity, as though appreciating your willingness to step into their aesthetic world. You offer a small bow without thinking, and she returns it with perfect grace. You stand again and move deeper into the garden. Stone lanterns rise among the moss, their tops dusted with silver moonlight. A breeze carries the faint smell of incense, sandalwood perhaps, softening the night even more. Ahead, you see a small bridge arcing over a pond. Water glimmers beneath it, reflecting the lanterns in ripples that look like trembling constellations. As you cross the bridge, koi drift lazily below, orange, white, black, each one moving with quiet dignity. Even the fish seem graceful here. The path leads you to a tea house, its doorway low enough that you instinctively bow as you enter. Inside, the space is simple, tatami mats, minimal decor, warm shadow. A woman kneels at a small hearth, stirring a bowl of powdered tea. Her sleeves fall gracefully with each motion. Even her movements feel like a practiced beauty ritual. She glances up with a soft smile before returning to her whisk. You don't speak. You don't need to. The silence here is its own kind of language. When she pours the tea into a small cup and sets it before you, you feel the warmth radiate toward your hands. You lift it slowly, inhaling the earthy scent. The steam curls upward in delicate spirals, forming shapes that dissolve the moment you try to look closely. You sip. The warmth spreads through your chest, your limbs, your thoughts. The moment feels suspended, weightless, like you've stepped into a world where time was politely asked to slow down. You set the cup down, and the woman nods once more before fading gently into the shadows of the tea house. Outside, the moon climbs higher, its light shifting from silver to pale gold. And somewhere in the distance, something new begins to stir, something darker, stranger, and shaped by ritual. You feel the narrative beginning to pull toward it. You step out of the tea house slowly, letting the cold night air gather around you again. The softness of the tea still lingers in your chest, humming like a quiet note that refuses to fade. The garden feels different now, deeper, more shadowed, as though you've wandered from the gentle surface of Japan's beauty into a more mysterious, almost theatrical undercurrent. A faint tapping echoes in the distance. Not footsteps exactly, more like something lightly striking wood in a slow, steady rhythm. You follow the sound down a narrow stone path lined with moss and lanterns. The glow stretches long across the ground, turning every shadow into a brushstroke of dark ink. You pass beneath an arch of cherry blossoms. Even at night, the petals seem to glow, their pale edges catching stray moonlight. A few petals drift down, brushing your shoulders like soft, sleepy greetings. You brush one from your sleeve and keep walking, the tapping sound growing clearer with each step. When the path opens, you find yourself standing before a stage, an outdoor no theater, its wooden platform raised slightly above the ground. Torches burn at its edges, their flames dancing like spirits caught mid-thought. The tapping continues softly, a small wooden fan striking the performer's palm in rhythmic cues. A lone no actor stands at center stage, wearing a mask so still and serene it seems carved from an emotion too quiet to name. Pale, expressionless, beautifully eerie. You can't tell if the mask is male or female, it exists beyond those categories, an idealized face that erases individuality to reveal something more symbolic. The masked figure moves with deliberate slowness, every gesture stretched out like time itself is performing. The sleeves of the costume billow in graceful arcs, catching torchlight in soft flashes. You feel the air shift around you, cooling, deepening. The silence becomes thick enough that each rustle of silk feels like thunder. You step closer, and the face of the mask, blank and smooth, seems to turn ever so slightly in your direction. Not enough to break the illusion, but enough to make your breath hitch. You sense the subtle message within the stillness. Beauty here isn't loud, it's controlled. Restrained. Shaped by tradition so old it's woven into the night itself. A mainstream historical fact rises through the stillness like a soft voice behind your shoulder. No masks were crafted to shift expression depending on the angle of light and the tilt of the performer's head, creating illusions of joy, sorrow, youth, or age without ever changing shape. You watch closely, and the mask confirms the truth. When the actor bows slightly, its expression deepens into melancholy. When the actor lifts the head, it brightens almost imperceptibly. Then, drifting in with faint mischief, comes an odd detail. Some performers applied tiny bits of glittering metal dust to their masks or costumes to catch torchlight dramatically. You notice it now, the tiniest shimmer at the edge of the mask, winking at you like a secret joke shared across centuries. The performance slows to a stop. The actor freezes completely, becoming a statue in cloth and shadow. A breeze shifts. The torches flicker. And then, like a whisper slipping beneath a door, the actor is gone. The stage is empty. You blink once, twice. The tapping has stopped. The silence thickens again. But you're not afraid. Ancient Japan holds its mysteries gently. You walk around the stage and follow another path leading away from the garden. The gravel crunches softly under your feet. Bamboo arches overhead, forming a tunnel that smells faintly of fresh leaves and rain-soaked soil. As you emerge from the bamboo, you find yourself near a small residence with sliding shoji screens half open. A soft glow spills out. Curiosity nudges you forward. Inside, a group of women sit together, their kimono colors muted in the low light. One holds a small pot of rouge, another lifts a slender brush, another carefully shapes a hairstyle with lacquer that gleams like ink under moonlight. Their movements are quiet, coordinated, almost ceremonial. You watch as one woman paints her lips into the signature tiny shape, a bright red bud placed in the center, leaving the rest pale. The effect is striking, creating contrast so sharp it almost glows. Another woman darkens her teeth with a black lacquer mixture, oheguro. The sight is startling at first, but then the effect shifts in your vision. The darkness makes her white face appear even brighter, more ethereal, more doll-like. The beauty standard isn't intuitive, but it's mesmerizing. A scholarly whisper glides gently around the room. Scholars still argue whether oheguro emerged primarily as a beauty practice, a marker of maturity, or a symbolic gesture of marital commitment. The debate hovers like a quiet thought, unresolved, mysterious, much like everything in this place. You linger in the doorway, watching the women prepare for something, perhaps a gathering, or a ceremony, or simply another night in a world where beauty is performance and ritual. You step back outside. The sky above is so clear you can see the faint outline of the Milky Way. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of silk, powder, incense, and distant waves. And beneath all of that, a shift begins, the ground turning warmer, the shadows lengthening, the air thickening with something ancient and raw. Mesoamerica is stirring, and it feels nothing like the serenity behind you. You step forward, leaving the quiet ritual of the shoji house behind. The bamboo tunnel dissolves gradually into open earth, warm and scented with soil and smoke. The night air carries a deeper, heavier rhythm now, something primal, alive, and almost musical. Your ears catch faint drumbeats in the distance, low and steady, like a heartbeat calling across centuries. The moon fades behind a cloud as the air grows thicker, carrying hints of cacao, maize, and something smoky, metallic. You realize you've entered ancient Mesoamerica, a world both vibrant and mysterious, where beauty is entwined with ritual, symbolism, and spectacle. The contrast with Japan is striking. Where the previous world whispered, this one sings with bold, vivid intensity. You walk forward along a dirt path lined with flowering shrubs and towering stone pyramids carved into stepped forms. Torches flare along the steps, and the carvings themselves, serpents, jaguars, warriors, seem to writhe slightly under the flickering light. You feel a subtle hum vibrating beneath your feet. It isn't just the earth. It feels as if the land itself is alive, aware, attentive. A procession appears ahead. Figures adorned in elaborate headdresses and painted skin move slowly in formation. Their faces are streaked with vibrant colors, red, blue, and yellow, geometric shapes marking status, lineage, and intention. You notice that symmetry matters here too, but it is bolder, almost exaggerated, meant to impress the gods as much as fellow humans. A mainstream historical fact whispers across your awareness. The Maya and Aztecs used body paint, jewelry, and elaborate headdresses to denote social status, religious roles, and beauty ideals. You step closer and see the intricate details. Jade beads strung along pierced ears, lip plugs and stretched earlobes, and elaborate feathered headdresses that tower twice the height of a human head. Each adornment is precise, intentional, and utterly spectacular. You can't help but run your fingers along a carved feather resting on a small stone pedestal, cool, smooth, and impossibly intricate. Then, almost playfully, a quirky detail nudges your mind. Some Mesoamerican elites filed their teeth into sharp points or inlaid them with jade to enhance their appearance, a practice both painful and strikingly beautiful. You wince slightly, imagining the careful work required to turn teeth into jewel-like extensions of identity. Yet here, in the glow of torchlight and ritual song, it seems natural, art, adornment, devotion all rolled into one. Drums roll in a slower rhythm, and dancers emerge onto a wide stone plaza. They move in careful sync, their feathered cloaks and animal masks flashing colors that seem impossible under moonlight. You follow at a respectful distance, feeling the rhythm pulse through your chest. Every movement communicates discipline, skill, and a keen understanding of aesthetics that transcends mere decoration. A scholarly whisper floats past your ears. Scholars still argue whether Mesoamerican body modifications and adornments were purely symbolic, religious, or also rooted in aesthetic preference. The debate hangs in the air like incense smoke, weaving through the drumbeats and feathered robes. You breathe slowly, letting it mingle with the raw energy of this place. You wander to the edge of the plaza, near a temple where a gentle breeze cools your skin. You notice offerings lined neatly along stone steps, carved figurines, polished stones, bright feathers, and bowls filled with vibrant pigments. You kneel and touch a small jade figurine. Its surface is cold but smooth, worn by centuries yet retaining a startling presence. You glance around. The dancers continue their ritual, and the painted faces of the elite observe with meticulous attention. Their aesthetic ideals are bold, extreme, and precise. Yet, unlike Japan's refined subtlety or Rome's radiant polish, here beauty is inseparable from power, status, and spiritual connection. The wind lifts slightly, carrying the mingled scents of cacao, burning incense, and night blossoms. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the drumbeats resonate through your bones, grounding you in this moment. It is as much a sensory experience as a visual one, a total immersion in a civilization that makes beauty an act of devotion, performance, and identity simultaneously. When you open your eyes, the temple's shadowed silhouette stretches long across the plaza. The moon peeks from behind the clouds, casting a silver glow that dances over painted faces and polished stone. You realize the rhythm has slowed, and the figures begin to disperse, leaving only the quiet hum of torches, the fading drumbeat, and the soft night air brushing against your skin. You take a deep breath. Your footsteps carry you away from the plaza, past the still glimmering pyramids and the scattered offerings. The sensation of Mesoamerican beauty, vivid, ritualized, and unapologetically bold, lingers with you, vibrating softly under your skin. Ahead, the air cools slightly again, and the earthy hum softens. You sense another civilization on the horizon, a world that values entirely different kinds of elegance, ornamentation, and status. One where extravagant hairstyles, powdered faces, and social performance take a dramatic twist. You step forward into the night, feeling the pulse of history beneath your feet, and know that the journey is far from over. The night air shifts as you leave the painted pyramids behind, cool and bracing now, carrying a hint of salt and brine. You sense the ocean before you see it, its rhythmic crash against cliffs and rocky beaches a kind of lullaby for anyone willing to listen. The sky is dark, but a million stars spark faintly, and the horizon glimmers with moonlight reflecting off gentle waves. You step forward, sand crunching beneath your feet, and immediately feel the difference. Here, beauty isn't only for show, it's alive, moving with water, wind, and tide. Welcome to the Vikings' northern shores, a rugged, windswept world where survival and aesthetics are entwined in equal measure. You breathe in deeply, tasting the scent of salt, pine, and smoke from distant longhouses. The coastline stretches endlessly, jagged cliffs meeting the sea, waves rolling in white-crested swells. Here, beauty is fierce, practical, and daring, but just as meticulous as any silk-robed Japanese court or jade-adorned Mesoamerican ritual. You wander past a longhouse, its timber walls dark with age. Smoke curls gently from the roof, carrying the aroma of peat fires, salted fish, and roasting meat. You hear laughter, the clinking of wooden mugs, and the deep hum of male voices singing a rhythmic chant. The air feels alive with communal energy, and you sense the presence of celebration, of ritual, of life intertwined with survival. A figure approaches, a woman with long, tightly braided hair, golden in the moonlight. Her cheeks are flushed from the cold, eyes sharp and lively. She wears a leather tunic lined with fur, her fingers adorned with rings shaped from bronze and silver. You notice the meticulous care in her appearance. Nails trimmed, hair woven into perfect braids, clothing layered and functional but elegant. A mainstream historical fact settles around you softly. Viking women often wore elaborate hairstyles and jewelry to display status, wealth, and skill, while also signaling readiness for social or political alliances. You notice the intricacy of her braids, each twist tight and precise, interwoven with small beads or silver clasps. The attention to detail reminds you of the Japanese kimono rituals, yet here it is rawer, almost elemental, intertwined with survival and prestige. An odd detail nudges your imagination. Some Viking women used plant-based dyes to color their hair, creating subtle reds, yellows, or golden highlights that caught the sunlight and drew attention from afar. You tilt your head, imagining the effort required to maintain beauty in such harsh conditions, and you shiver slightly, not from cold, but from awe at human ingenuity. The sound of the waves grows louder as you walk closer to the shoreline. You watch longships resting on the beach, their carved dragon heads catching moonlight, water lapping gently at their keels. You feel a pull to touch the wood, smooth and weathered by countless voyages. The smell of salt and tar fills your senses, grounding you in this world of practical aesthetics. A scholarly whisper drifts over you like fog on the cliffs. Scholars still argue whether Viking beauty standards were primarily aesthetic, symbolic of social rank, or intertwined with spiritual beliefs about luck and protection during travel. You let the thought drift, like sea foam carried by waves, before following a narrow trail along the cliffs. The wind gusts sharply, brushing your hair back and biting your cheeks. You watch as another figure, this one a man, leans against the rocks, his hair thick and braided, beard carefully tended. He's not just handsome, there's an intentionality to his appearance. Silver beads glint in his hair, and his tunic is worn but neat. Every detail communicates care, strength, and alertness. Beauty here is both personal and strategic. You continue along the coastline and spot small groups gathered around fires, faces illuminated in flickering orange light. The warmth of the flames makes their pale skin glow, and you notice one woman applying a subtle mixture of ochre and ash across her cheeks. It's almost imperceptible but catches the light in a way that emphasizes her cheekbones. You feel a soft laughter inside your chest at how the world shapes its beauty rituals differently. Rome's glowing powders, Japan's porcelain refinement, Mesoamerica's painted, jeweled extremes, and now the North's elemental, functional charm. The waves roll closer, and you reach a point where the cliff curves sharply, forming a quiet inlet. The ocean spray touches your skin, cool and tangy, and you pause. You notice the meticulous care in every detail around you. Hair woven to resist the wind, furs trimmed for warmth and appearance, jewelry signaling status or personality. Even in a harsh, wild landscape, beauty persists, adaptable, fierce, and deeply human. You sit on a rock and listen, feeling the rhythm of water and wind sync with your own pulse. The memory of other civilizations lingers behind you, layered like soft echoes. The Vikings' world is immediate, tactile, alive, and it leaves a lasting impression on your senses. You stand, brushing sand from your hands, and take a deep breath. The night air feels like a living current, ready to carry you forward. Across the water, a faint glimmer rises, different, distant, inviting. A civilization of refined, opulent extravagance is waiting, one where hair, makeup, and status combine into almost theatrical display. You step forward, ready for the next chapter. The air grows warmer as you leave the Viking coastline behind, shifting from the bracing northern wind to a richer, heavier atmosphere that hums with perfume, incense, and distant music. You sense the change before you see it. A world saturated in luxury, gilded surfaces, and visual excess. Every breath seems infused with wealth, status, and a constant, almost playful attention to appearance. You step into Renaissance Italy, a place where beauty is both art and performance, carefully measured and deliberately displayed. The streets are narrow, paved with worn stones that glint faintly under the glow of oil lamps. Buildings lean elegantly toward each other, their facades decorated with frescoes, carvings, and gilded details. You notice the rich scent of oils, flowers, and melting wax from countless candles, a warm undertone layering the night air. A figure approaches, walking gracefully in a gown so intricate it seems impossible that fabric could carry such weight without whispering at every step. Her hair is styled in a tall, elaborate coif, pinned with pearls and tiny ribbons. Her cheeks glow with a careful application of rouge, lips a perfect soft red. Every detail is deliberate, every curve of cloth and curl of hair designed to communicate status, refinement, and artistic sensibility. A mainstream historical fact drifts softly in your awareness. During the Renaissance, pale skin was highly prized among Italian elites, often achieved with lead-based powders, while hairstyles and clothing signaled wealth, marital status, and sophistication. You trace your gaze along the patterns embroidered into her sleeves, tiny flowers, geometric motifs, and tiny gold threads that catch candlelight like captured stars. The level of detail is mesmerizing. Scholars still debate the social significance of these patterns, whether purely aesthetic or layered with subtle codes of family lineage and political allegiance. An odd detail interrupts your admiration, nudging you awake with a hint of discomfort. Women sometimes powdered their faces so heavily that even small movements could cause cracking, yet this, mask-like, appearance was considered the height of elegance. You imagine holding a mirror to your own face and seeing it split into delicate, porcelain-like fissures, all for beauty. Somehow, the image is both unsettling and oddly fascinating. You continue along the streets, passing sculptors, workshops and painters' studios. Statues of marble gods and goddesses stand in courtyards, their forms polished smooth and idealized. A painter leans over a canvas, mixing pigments with careful fingers, creating colors so vibrant they almost hum. You notice the same obsession with proportion here that you glimpsed in Rome, though it feels more theatrical, more conscious of performance. At a nearby piazza, musicians play softly, lutes, viols, flutes, accompanying the rhythmic shuffle of people in silk, velvet, and brocade. You pause to watch a young man adjusting his feathered cap, his fingers delicate yet purposeful. His cheeks are subtly tinted, lips brushed lightly with color, a small indulgence of personal beauty in a crowded, competitive world. A scholarly whisper drifts to you amid the music. Scholars still argue whether Renaissance beauty practices were primarily about aesthetics, social signaling, or a combination of artistry and class politics. You feel the subtle tension of that question, hanging beneath the extravagant surface of polished marble, perfumed streets, and silk gowns. Then your eyes catch something delightfully peculiar. Some wealthy Italians in the 16th century wore wigs dyed in bold shades like gold or red to signal fashion-forward thinking, even when their natural hair was hidden entirely beneath powder and ornament. You smile softly, imagining the effort required to maintain appearances in an era before mirrors were abundant and hygiene was less predictable. You follow a narrow alley into a quiet courtyard where a fountain gurgles under the moonlight. The water glimmers, reflecting the gold embroidery of the nearby balconies and the faint flicker of candlelight. You kneel to touch it, the cold liquid surprising after the warm night air, but it grounds you in this luxurious yet deeply human environment. You hear footsteps behind you, soft but measured. You turn slightly to see a woman carrying a small painted mask, sliding it over her face as if for a secret ceremony or playful masquerade. Her eyes gleam from behind it, and you sense the same interplay of secrecy, beauty, and performance that echoes through every corridor, courtyard, and piazza you've passed. The night stretches gently around you. The city hums with life, and yet beneath the luxury, you notice a subtle fragility. Powdered faces, constrained corsets, elaborate hairstyles, they demand maintenance, endurance, and a careful balance between art and reality. You rise from the fountain, feeling the energy of Renaissance Italy vibrating softly in your chest. Every sight, smell, and sound reminds you that beauty here is deliberate, extravagant, and performative, yet deeply human, layered with risk, skill, and intent. A faint breeze carries you forward, whisking you toward another world, one far colder, darker, and even more extreme in its standards. You take a deep breath and step into the next chapter, curiosity tingling through every sense. The opulent streets of Renaissance Italy fade behind you, replaced by an air so crisp it feels almost electric. Snow crunches softly beneath your boots, and the scent of pine and cold smoke mingles with the faint tang of iron from frozen rivers. You shiver, but not from discomfort. This world has a stark, rigorous beauty that demands attention. Every step you take feels deliberate, measured, as if the land itself expects precision. Welcome to 17th century Northern Europe, a world where extremes of appearance signal social rank, moral virtue, and sometimes, just the desire to astonish. The wind slices across the frozen landscape, carrying the faint strains of distant music, harpsichords, fiddles, and the occasional voice echoing in shadowed streets. The buildings are tall and angular, timber-framed and dusted with snow, smoke curling from chimneys in lazy spirals. The environment itself seems sharp and deliberate, mirroring the beauty ideals that humans have imposed upon it. You wander into a small town square, noticing immediately how people carry themselves. Women in towering lace collars and stiff bodices stride through the frost, their breath puffing clouds into the air. Men wear high boots polished to mirror sheen, ruffs framing their faces with crisp elegance. Every aspect of their appearance is meticulously arranged, each fold and lace detail conveying care, discipline, and social awareness. A mainstream historical fact drifts through the cold air. In Northern Europe during the 17th century, elaborate wigs, ruffs, and powdered faces were used to display status, wealth, and adherence to courtly fashion. You observe a woman brushing a small wooden comb through her powdered hair. Her wig towers nearly a foot above her head, its curls carefully maintained. Tiny pins and ribbons hold it in place, each one chosen for both practical support and decorative effect. Her pale face, powdered with lead-based makeup, seems almost mask-like in the icy light. You shiver again, imagining the effort and discomfort required just to step outside fully adorned. Then, a quirky detail brushes your attention. Some elite Europeans dyed their teeth black to contrast with pale powdered faces, a trend called blackening, that emphasized refinement and sophistication. You almost laugh, picturing the stark visual contrast in portraits and social gatherings. Beauty here is extreme, bordering on performative, a daring interplay of color, contrast, and status. The square stretches before you, and the sounds of daily life intermingle with faint strains of ceremony. Children scurry past, their cheeks naturally rosy from cold, oblivious to the intricate codes of appearance around them. Meanwhile, nobles adjust collars and gloves, inspecting each detail with meticulous care. You notice the tension, the underlying pressure in Northern Europe to maintain a perfect facade in a harsh, often unforgiving environment. A scholarly whisper reaches you across the snowy plaza. Scholars still argue whether extreme cosmetics and fashion in 17th century Europe were driven more by social signaling or aesthetic obsession, or an inseparable mix of both. The debate floats like frost on the air, unresolved, yet tangible in every powdered cheek, curled wig, and polished boot. You wander into a nearby courtyard where a fountain, partially frozen, glints in torchlight. Women glide past, their skirts rustling over the snow-dusted cobblestones, while men bow or tip their hats in precise gestures. You realize Northern European beauty ideals are a kind of discipline, rigorous, exacting, almost militaristic, but performed with elegance, almost daring anyone to question it. Then a final, unexpected quirk catches your attention. Some women wore miniature masks indoors, just to maintain an air of mystery or to accentuate facial powder contrasts during social visits. You pause, imagining a dinner party where each guest is painted, powdered, or masked, creating an entire social theater out of personal appearance. The idea feels simultaneously absurd and enchanting. You step back onto the snow-covered street, the wind biting your cheeks as you breathe in deeply. The world seems alive with contrasts, pain and beauty, discipline and expression, frost and fire. Northern Europe leaves an impression that lingers in your skin, bones, and mind. Beauty is performance, survival, and spectacle all at once. Ahead, the wind changes, warmer and fragrant with spices, oils, and distant laughter. Another civilization awaits, one where ornamentation reaches opulence beyond imagination, and beauty is displayed with calculated grandeur that rivals the gods themselves. You step forward, curiosity thrumming, into the next luminous chapter. The snowy streets and frozen fountains fade behind you, replaced by air thick with spice, incense, and the faintest hint of exotic flowers. Your senses tingle as you step onto cobblestones polished by centuries of traffic, the sun low in the sky but striking the gilded domes and vibrant mosaics with a fiery glow. You inhale slowly, tasting warmth and perfume on the breeze, a prelude to a world where beauty is amplified, flamboyant, and deliberately extravagant. Welcome to the Ottoman Empire at its height, a civilization where status, artistry, and aesthetics intertwine in dazzling displays of wealth and personal style. The streets are alive with merchants, dancers, and courtiers, all moving to a rhythm of commerce, ceremony, and performance. Turbans, embroidered robes, and glittering jewelry catch sunlight and shadow alike, creating a kaleidoscope of colors, textures, and shapes. You feel like an intruder and a privileged observer at once, suspended between awe and curiosity. You follow a narrow street lined with small fountains and tiled mosaics. Water sparkles in geometric patterns, and the sound is soothing, carrying faint whispers of conversations and soft music. A woman passes by, her silk robes embroidered with golden thread flowing behind her. Her eyebrows are plucked into a precise arc, her lips lightly tinted, and her hands adorned with rings that glint in the sunlight. Every detail is intentional, every accessory a declaration of taste, lineage, or marital status. A mainstream historical fact drifts through your awareness. Ottoman elites placed enormous emphasis on grooming, clothing, and jewelry as markers of status, with complex codes dictating who could wear certain colors, fabrics, or patterns. You notice the intricate details on her sleeves. Fine needlework, tiny motifs repeated with mathematical precision. Her hair, though partially covered by a delicate scarf, shows hints of braids adorned with pearls and gold threads. The care involved is astonishing, blending artistic sensibility with cultural expectation. Then a peculiar detail catches your attention. Some women would darken their teeth or apply small, decorative dots around the eyes to enhance symmetry and draw attention to facial features, tiny accents considered markers of charm and refinement. You smile faintly, imagining the careful daily rituals required to maintain such tiny yet deliberate beauty markers. You continue down a wide avenue toward a courtyard where fountains dance with water catching sunlight like liquid gold. Musicians play soft, complex rhythms on oud and ney, their melodies weaving into the hum of conversation. Courtiers pass by, glancing at each other with subtle expressions, evaluations, approval, admiration. You feel their beauty standards operating as both personal display and social currency. A scholarly whisper floats gently on the breeze. Scholars still argue whether Ottoman beauty rituals were primarily social, aesthetic, or spiritual in nature, or an inseparable combination of all three. You sense the truth in the ambiguity, observing powdered faces, painted nails, and elaborately styled hair in motion, all contributing to a living theater of elegance. You pause near a fountain, watching as a young noblewoman delicately applies kohl to her eyes, accentuating the almond shape and drawing attention to the depth of her gaze. Her fingertips glint with gold rings, and tiny gems sparkle along the edge of her scarf. Every element of her presentation is deliberate, choreographed almost as if she were a living painting. Then, a final oddity drifts to your awareness. Some women and men used scented oils to not only perfume the body but also subtly highlight skin texture and hair sheen, effectively blending olfactory and visual beauty standards. You inhale softly, savoring the combination, imagining how each scent, each shimmer, adds an invisible layer to the grand display of elegance. The sun dips lower, casting elongated shadows that dance across domes and mosaics. You feel the warm breeze and the faint pulse of music in your chest. Beauty here is not subtle. It is deliberate, orchestrated, and immersive, a complete performance from head to toe. You walk forward, leaving the courtyard behind, feeling the lingering warmth of the spices, the silk, and the gold on your skin. Ahead, another world waits, this one blending bold color, ritual, and extreme physical transformation into something almost theatrical. You step into the night, senses alert, anticipation humming through every fiber of your being. The golden glow of the Ottoman courtyards fades behind you, replaced by a sharp, dry air tinged with the smell of sun-baked earth, incense, and smoke from ceremonial fires. The horizon stretches wide, revealing temples and towering pyramids, their facades carved with intricate glyphs and symbols. You feel the heat of the midday sun beating down, a stark contrast to the shaded elegance of previous civilizations, and the intensity awakens something primal within you. Welcome to ancient Egypt, a land where beauty is not merely decorative, it is intertwined with divinity, power, and eternity. Every person, every structure, every riverbank seems imbued with symbolism, reminding you that appearance here carries meaning beyond the aesthetic. You step onto sandy pathways worn smooth by the passage of countless feet, flanked by stone walls etched with hieroglyphs depicting gods, pharaohs, and ceremonial processions. You notice figures approaching, their skin gleaming with oils that catch sunlight, creating a subtle shimmer. Women wear intricately pleated linen dresses, belts cinched to accentuate the waist, and collars encrusted with semi-precious stones. Men walk alongside, adorned with kilts, broad collars, and gold jewelry that gleams in rhythm with their measured steps. Every gesture, every tilt of the head, seems calculated to project authority, charm, and divine favor. A mainstream historical fact rises gently around you. Ancient Egyptians valued skin cleanliness, cosmetic use, and hair styling. Kohl was applied to eyes for both aesthetic and protective purposes. You notice the dramatic eye makeup, the deep kohl outlining eyes in bold, winged patterns. It isn't just for beauty, it is believed to ward off evil, soothe the eyes against sun glare, and signify status. The precision and artistry are astounding, and your fingers itch to touch, though you resist, aware of the sacredness imbued in every line. Then an odd, startling detail captures your attention. Some Egyptians dyed their nails or fingertips in red or black, with the colors signaling social rank or readiness for specific ceremonial roles. You glance down at your own hands and marvel at how subtle yet intentional such adornments could be, their meaning layered beneath the visual impact. The sun's heat grows more intense as you wander toward a temple complex, where a procession is forming. Priests and priestesses walk in line, wearing headdresses with elaborate feathers or gold discs, carrying sacred items. Their movements are slow, deliberate, and ritualized, almost theatrical in their precision. You notice the skin of the pharaoh's attendants gleaming with oil, their jewelry catching every ray of sunlight like sparks of fire. A scholarly whisper drifts in. Scholars still argue whether the extreme use of cosmetics in ancient Egypt was purely ritualistic, a display of wealth, or a combination of health, beauty, and symbolism. You feel the layered complexity of meaning everywhere, the gleam of gold, the curve of eyeliner, the scent of resins and oils. Beauty here is inseparable from belief, status, and cultural identity. You step closer to a group of noblewomen preparing for a ceremonial procession. Their hair is braided and intertwined with beads, threads, and small gold ornaments. Some have shaved their heads entirely, wearing wigs styled into intricate shapes that tower delicately above their faces. Every detail is intentional, each curl, braid, or ornament a declaration of elegance, piety, and social position. Then a peculiar, almost whimsical detail emerges. Certain wealthy Egyptians would have small chains or tiny ornaments attached to their eyelids or hair, meant to catch light and subtly dazzle onlookers during ritual movements. You lean forward slightly, captivated by the play of light and motion, sensing the careful choreography that transforms daily appearance into spectacle. You wander into a shaded courtyard near the Nile, the water glinting like liquid glass under the bright sun. The distant sound of ceremonial drums echoes softly, mingling with the calls of river birds. You kneel briefly to touch the surface, feeling the cool liquid contrast with the warmth of the desert air. The Egyptians' beauty is as deliberate as any other civilization you've seen, yet it carries a different rhythm, one of reverence, permanence, and sacred expression. Here, the human form becomes a canvas for divinity, the tiniest detail weighted with meaning and intent. You rise, brushing sand from your hands, and notice a faint shimmer on the horizon, golden and distant, suggesting the next world's peculiar charm, a civilization that prized symmetrical, almost geometric beauty in ways both painful and meticulous. You step forward, anticipation humming softly through your veins, ready to witness the extremes of human imagination and discipline once more. The blazing sun of Egypt fades behind you, replaced by a cooler, crisper light, tinged with the metallic gleam of distant structures and a faint scent of earth mixed with resin and heated stone. The air feels both disciplined and calculated, as if every breath you take belongs to a civilization obsessed with order and symmetry. You step onto a pathway lined with carefully arranged stones that glint faintly, and immediately notice the precision in the architecture, geometrically exact walls, perfectly aligned doorways, and an overwhelming sense that everything here follows strict rules of proportion. Welcome to ancient Greece, a world where beauty is measured, philosophical, and almost mathematical. Here, symmetry isn't just aesthetic, it is a moral and intellectual principle. Every structure, statue, and personal adornment seems to echo the notion that harmony reflects virtue. The streets are alive with citizens moving through agoras, artisans shaping marble, and philosophers gesturing passionately as they debate ethics, politics, and the ideal human form. You wander toward a marble courtyard, where sunlight glints off columns and statues. A sculptor chisels slowly, carefully revealing the form hidden within stone. Each movement is precise, deliberate, as though perfection is the only acceptable outcome. You see a young man adjusting the drape of his tunic, muscles subtly flexing under linen. His hair is tied back with a thin band, and a faint line of oil along his arms makes the skin catch the sun in a quiet glow. Beauty here is naturalized, enhanced, yet always measured, and every gesture seems to communicate self-discipline and intellect. A mainstream historical fact floats around you gently. The Greeks prized proportion, balance, and harmony in the human body, believing physical beauty reflected moral and intellectual excellence. You notice the subtle attention to detail: fingernails clean and short, hair smoothed and bound, skin carefully oiled. Even the simplest tunic is folded in a way that accentuates lines and symmetry. You trace your eyes along the statues nearby, their forms idealized, muscular yet balanced, each curve and angle calculated to exemplify perfection. Then, an odd, quirky detail nudges your attention. Some Greek citizens used perfumed oils not only for fragrance but to accentuate muscle definition, catching sunlight and shadow in artistic ways. You tilt your head, imagining the effort required to maintain an appearance that marries physical care with artistry, a form of beauty that is both practical and performative. You follow a narrow street toward a gathering of philosophers and rhetoricians. Their robes flow in careful arcs, their gestures measured. A young woman adjusts her hair, braided intricately and pinned with small golden clasps. She steps gracefully, aware of how her posture, balance, and proportions affect perception. The Greeks' obsession with symmetry extends beyond the body to movement, gesture, and spatial awareness. A scholarly whisper drifts softly. Scholars still argue whether Greek beauty ideals emphasized innate genetic traits, rigorous grooming, or a combination of both cultivated skill and inherited form. You feel the tension in that question, as if every carefully oiled arm, braided hair, and folded tunic carries centuries of debate. Then a peculiar visual detail arrests you. Some Greek women pluck their hairlines or shaped eyebrows in geometric patterns to enhance symmetry, a subtle but powerful reflection of cultural ideals. You imagine the meticulous attention required, how every line and angle is calculated to reflect harmony, balance, and a quiet elegance that feels almost sculptural. You wander into an open courtyard near a fountain, water glinting and catching sunlight in fractal patterns across white marble. The sound is soothing, reflective, harmonizing with the careful rhythm of footsteps and conversation. Here, beauty is deliberate, structured, and moralized, an aesthetic philosophy lived and breathed in every movement, every gesture, and every glance. You step away from the marble columns, feeling a subtle sense of exhilaration mixed with calm. Ancient Greece leaves an impression of measured perfection, symmetry, and deliberate artistry that contrasts sharply with the flamboyance of the Ottoman Empire and the sacred symbolism of Egypt. Ahead, the horizon shimmers with another kind of allure, a world obsessed with transformation, modification, and dramatic extremes. Your senses pulse with anticipation for the next exploration, ready to witness a civilization where beauty is pain, display, and daring all at once. The measured symmetry of Greece fades as the air around you thickens with heat, spices, and the faint tang of smoke. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, worn smooth in some places and jagged in others, the landscape both rugged and meticulously cultivated. You sense anticipation in the atmosphere, an energy that hums just beneath your skin. This is a world where beauty and transformation are taken to extremes, where the human body becomes a canvas of bold experimentation, ritual, and daring aesthetics. Welcome to Imperial China during the Tang Dynasty, a civilization that prizes elegance, extravagance, and physical modification as outward expressions of status, refinement, and cultural sophistication. The streets are wide and bustling, filled with merchants, courtiers, and performers. The buildings are painted in rich reds and golds, roofs curving upward like delicate wings, and banners fluttering in the wind. You smell ink, incense, and exotic teas mingling with the perfume of silk robes worn by noblewomen and men. A woman passes by, her silk dress embroidered with cranes and clouds. Her hair is swept up into an intricate chignon, adorned with gold pins, jade combs, and tiny blossoms. Her cheeks are lightly powdered, lips tinted a delicate red, and her fingernails painted in subtle gradients. Every detail seems calculated to impress, command attention, and communicate her social standing. You step closer, absorbing the meticulous artistry woven into every inch of her appearance. A mainstream historical fact drifts through your awareness. During the Tang dynasty, women and men employed cosmetics, perfumes, and elaborate hairstyles as symbols of social rank, refinement, and aesthetic taste. You notice a quirky, almost shocking detail. Some Tang women bound their feet lightly, not yet the extreme practice of later dynasties, but to create a subtle arch considered elegant and desirable. You imagine the gentle discomfort, the careful balance between aesthetic ideals and daily practicality, and can't help but admire the discipline required to meet such standards. You walk toward a wide plaza where musicians play on guzhengs and flutes, their melodies floating over the crowd. Courtiers move gracefully, observing posture, gestures, and attire with keen attention. A man passes, his hair carefully styled and powdered, a jade hairpin securing the topknot. Even the smallest accessories, a belt clasp, a ring, or a fan, carry meaning, displaying wealth, taste, and personal refinement. A scholarly whisper drifts lightly above the crowd. Scholars still argue whether Tang-era beauty practices were rooted in moral, aesthetic, or purely social imperatives, or a seamless blend of all three. You feel the weight of that debate in every silk fold, every brushstroke of rouge, and every ornamental hairpin. Then an unexpected, vivid detail captures your attention. Some men and women painted their teeth black, a practice called ohaguro, intended to enhance beauty, denote maturity, and signify marital status. You shiver slightly at the strangeness, yet the practice feels oddly fitting in a society where every detail, from clothing to hair to teeth, was intentionally orchestrated to convey meaning. You wander into a serene courtyard near a lotus pond. The water glimmers under a pale sun, reflecting the painted windows and the vibrant hues of floating blossoms. Courtiers pause by the edge, adjusting collars, smoothing sleeves, or brushing stray hair strands into place. The calm, ordered environment contrasts beautifully with the boldness of their visual displays. You sit briefly on a stone bench, absorbing the atmosphere. Beauty in Tang China is at once extreme and subtle, disciplined and imaginative. It is a deliberate performance that requires awareness, patience, and devotion to cultural ideals, blending tactile artistry with visual storytelling. You rise, brushing your hands lightly against your robes, feeling the pulse of history vibrating beneath the delicate silk. Ahead, the horizon shimmers with something new, a civilization where embellishment and ritual push the human form into theatrical, almost painful extremes, yet are celebrated as hallmarks of status and refinement. You step forward into the next vivid, extravagant chapter. The soft elegance of Tang China fades behind you, replaced by a heavy, almost suffocating heat. The air is thick with fragrant oils, incense, and the faintly metallic tang of blood. The ground beneath your feet is polished wood, lacquered to a mirror shine, and you notice the faintest vibrations from rhythmic drumming in the distance. There is a sense of ritual, spectacle, and transformation, a civilization obsessed with extreme displays of status, power, and personal refinement. Welcome to Heian Japan, a period where beauty is cultivated, codified, and, in some ways, painfully exacting. You step into a sprawling court filled with silk, painted screens, and the subtle scent of incense curling in the air. Nobles move slowly, deliberately, their clothing layered in colors meant to reflect the seasons, their rank, and aesthetic harmony. The floorboards creak softly beneath every step, but the movement is choreographed, precise, almost ceremonial. Women glide past, their robes flowing in multiple layers of soft pastels, obi tied in perfect geometric folds. Their hair is long, dark, and lustrous, brushed to an impossible shine, falling straight to the floor or arranged in elaborate coiffures adorned with combs and delicate pins. Their faces are pale, powdered with rice powder, and a hint of rouge accentuates their cheeks. Each movement, each gesture, is calculated to display refinement and aesthetic sensitivity. A mainstream historical fact hovers in your mind. Heian era beauty in Japan emphasized long, straight hair, pale skin, and subtle application of pigments to indicate nobility, refinement, and aesthetic sensibility. You notice the meticulous care in their details. The precise arrangement of hair, the subtle gradations of pigment on eyelids and lips, the layers of silk folded just so. Every element communicates discipline, social rank, and awareness of cultural codes. Then a peculiar, slightly shocking detail surfaces. Some Heian women blacken their teeth, a practice called ohaguro, symbolizing maturity, elegance, and marital status. You tilt your head, imagining the contrast against porcelain white skin, the deliberate artistry in such a transformation, and the subtle drama it adds to the carefully curated image of beauty. You wander past screens depicting seasonal landscapes, noticing courtiers adjusting robes and accessories. Fans are held at precise angles, silk sleeves brushed delicately, and hairpins are repositioned to maintain balance. Every motion is an extension of appearance, an unspoken code blending social signaling and aesthetic performance. A scholarly whisper drifts in as if riding the faint aroma of incense. Scholars still argue whether the extreme Heian beauty practices were primarily social, aesthetic, or moral, and whether they were endured for personal pride or societal expectation. You feel the tension inherent in each powdered cheek, each carefully blackened tooth, each meticulously arranged layer of silk. Beauty is a discipline here, an art that demands patience, endurance, and awareness. Then an odd, intimate detail draws your attention. Some courtiers extended the white of their makeup onto the neck and chest, creating a continuous canvas to enhance contrast with blackened teeth and dark hair, producing an ethereal, almost otherworldly appearance. You breathe slowly, imagining the painstaking preparation required, the balance between elegance and discomfort, and the commitment to aesthetic ideals that transcends mere vanity. You step into a small courtyard with a stone pond. Water lilies float on the surface, reflecting the delicate patterns of silk and ink screens. The air is still, and yet vibrating with centuries of ritual, expectation, and carefully choreographed beauty. You kneel briefly to touch the water, feeling the cool liquid against your fingertips, grounding yourself in this delicate, intense world. The Heian court's beauty is exacting, ritualized, and transformative, a performance in every breath, gesture, and glance. You rise slowly, brushing your hands against silk, carrying the sensation of layered textures, the subtle fragrance of oils, and the resonance of a culture where beauty is as disciplined as it is dazzling. Ahead, the horizon darkens slightly, preparing you for the final civilization in your journey, a world where human modification reaches extreme theatricality, and beauty exists as spectacle, social currency, and almost painful devotion. You step forward, ready for the grand finale. The refined elegance of Heian Japan dissolves behind you, replaced by an air that hums with intensity and ritual, almost thick enough to taste. The ground underfoot is smooth, lacquered, and polished, reflecting candlelight that flickers across towering screens, gilded statues, and intricate masks. Every sound, the soft tap of feet, the distant hum of chanting, the whisper of silk, feels amplified, as though the environment itself demands attention to detail, discipline, and transformation. Welcome to Aztec civilization at its height, a world where beauty is entwined with ritual, social hierarchy, and almost theatrical physical transformation. You step into a ceremonial plaza, the stones worn smooth by generations of barefoot priests, warriors, and nobility. The scent of copal incense mingles with the earthy aroma of maize and cocoa, and you sense the vibration of drums, their rhythm deep, almost visceral, pulsing through the air like a heartbeat. You notice figures approaching, each movement deliberate. Men and women wear elaborate feathered headdresses in brilliant blues, reds, and yellows. Their skin is painted with mineral pigments, green, black, red, and white, applied in patterns that denote status, lineage, and specific societal roles. Necklaces of jade, obsidian, and gold glint in torchlight, accentuating collars and shoulders. Even the simplest gesture, a bow, a turn, a step, communicates intention, beauty, and presence. A mainstream historical fact rises around you. The Aztecs practiced extensive body modification, including piercing, tattooing, and decorative paint, as well as elaborate featherwork and jewelry to signify status and ritual participation. You notice the meticulous application of pigments on faces, limbs, and torsos. Small dots, stripes, and spirals accentuate bone structure, muscle definition, and movement. Feathers sway gently with each motion, and the patterns shimmer in the sunlight, creating a living mosaic of color, symmetry, and meaning. Then an odd detail captures your attention, almost startlingly vivid. Some Aztec elites would file or sharpen their teeth into points and inlay them with turquoise or jade, creating dazzling, painful, and socially significant displays of beauty. You wince slightly, imagining the effort, endurance, and intentional discomfort required to meet such exacting standards, yet you also marvel at the sheer creativity and daring involved. You wander toward a group gathered near a large temple platform. Musicians and dancers perform, adorned in headdresses that tower above their heads, humming and chanting in ritualized rhythms. Their movements are exaggerated, choreographed to convey status, religious devotion, and aesthetic mastery. You notice the careful contrast of skin pigments against the gleaming green of jade jewelry, the dark feathers catching sunlight, and the rhythmic sway of garments dyed in vivid natural colors. A scholarly whisper drifts over the ceremonial sounds. Scholars still argue whether Aztec body modifications were primarily symbolic, aesthetic, or ritualistic, or an inseparable blend of all three. You feel the weight of that uncertainty as you watch a priestess gently adjust her feathered collar, paint on her cheeks shimmering, jade glinting against her dark skin. The line between art, ritual, and social signaling seems intentionally blurred. Then a final, almost whimsical detail emerges. Some warriors and nobles adorned themselves with living butterflies, beads, or small feathers temporarily attached to faces or hair, creating ephemeral, dazzling displays during festivals and ceremonies. You smile softly at the delicate, fleeting artistry, the idea that beauty here is not only permanent or painful but also playful, fleeting, and entirely performative. You step onto the edge of the temple plaza, watching the sun dip behind distant mountains, the sky a brilliant canvas of orange, purple, and red. You feel a deep, resonant connection with centuries of human effort, imagination, and ritualized beauty. Each civilization you've visited, Vikings, Renaissance Italians, Northern Europeans, Ottomans, Egyptians, Greeks, Tang Chinese, Hain Japanese, and now the Aztecs, leaves an imprint, a whisper of what humanity has considered beautiful, desirable, and socially meaningful across time and space. You take a slow breath, letting the cadence of drums, the shimmer of pigments, and the rhythm of movement seep into your senses. There is awe, curiosity, and a subtle fatigue, as if your body has wandered centuries in a single night. You sense the delicate thread connecting every culture you've seen. Beauty is art, ritual, social currency, and deeply human expression. You step back from the plaza, the warm, fading light caressing your skin. The horizon softens, preparing you to return gently to your own time, carrying the impressions of daring, discipline, and creativity that have defined humanity's pursuit of beauty. The ceremonial drums fade into a distant hum, replaced by the gentle whisper of wind brushing across leaves and the faint trickle of water. Your body feels lighter, as if the centuries of wandering, observing, and absorbing human beauty are settling softly into your bones. You take a deep breath, letting the scents of earth, incense, and faint perfume linger in your mind like a slow, pleasant memory. You find yourself in a quiet meadow, moonlight pooling across soft grass. Tiny insects hum gently in the distance, and the stars shimmer overhead with serene patience. You can feel the pulse of history beneath your skin, but it is calm now, no rush, no obligation, only reflection. Each civilization, each ritual, each extreme or subtle standard of beauty settles like a delicate feather, weightless yet unforgettable. Your eyes drift toward the horizon, where soft hills roll into darkness. The echoes of laughter, chants, and music are still there, tucked into the corners of memory, but they are gentle now, like a lullaby meant for you alone. You sink onto the grass, letting your body mold into the earth, feeling supported, grounded, and safe. The subtle hum of the night, the distant rustle of trees, the faint sigh of wind, invites you to exhale slowly, releasing tension from every muscle. Beauty, you realize, is not just in display or ritual, it is in presence, in observation, in the quiet reverence for what has been created, endured, and celebrated. You feel your eyelids grow heavy, the soft cadence of your own breath mingling with the invisible rhythms of history. The world is vast, human imagination limitless, yet in this moment, everything is simple, calm, comfort, and the gentle intimacy of being alive, here, now, and aware. Close your eyes, drift slowly, and let the stories settle into your dreams. The night embraces you fully, softly, unhurried. Sweet dreams.